Hello, and welcome again to Navajo County Connection. I'm David Tenney, member of the Navajo County Board of Supervisors representing District 4, and my co-host.
Hi, I'm Dawnafe Whitesinger representing District 5. I'm happy to be here today, and spring is in the air and some great time to be outside.
Yes, it is, and you look like very rejuvenated and refreshed. I'm guessing you had a really nice spring break.
I did. Got to spend some time with my family, which is a luxury, and so it was a great spring break.
Good for you. Well, welcome back, and welcome to the show. And we've got, well, it's spring, as you mentioned, which means that one thing is upon us quicker than we usually like, and that would be fire season. And so we want to talk about fire season, fire danger, fire restriction potentials, and all of those things, and what's been going on with some of our partner agencies around the area to help us get ready for those things. So I want to welcome our guests today. We have two guests with us. First, we have Linda Jackson, who is the Deputy Supervisor on the Apache Sitgreaves. Welcome, Linda.
Thank you.
And then we have Candy Lupe, who is the Fire Prevention Specialist for the BIA and with the White Mountain Apache Tribe.
Thank you very much, and good morning.
Good morning.
Glad to have you both with us. Before we get started and start talking about the topic at hand today, can you each take a minute or two and introduce yourselves, let our viewers know who you are, where you're from, a little bit about yourselves, your family, where you went to school, just kind of what brought you to this point in your career. Why don't we start with you?
Okay, I'm Linda Jackson. Again, I'm the Deputy Forest Supervisor on the Apache Sitgrave. I'm the Acting Deputy Forest Supervisor. So actually I arrived here about the middle of January, and I'll be leaving around early May, and the Deputy Tom Osen will be returning at that time.
Yeah, he's on assignment in Albuquerque.
He's on assignment in Albuquerque, right? And so my
Well, we'd rather visit with you than Tom anyway. So
welcome. We're happy to have you.
Thanks. My day job would be actually on the Prescott National Forest, where we also deal with fires and stuff over there.
Sure.
And I have a couple of children and a husband, and my kids are in college, and my husband's holding the fort down in Prescott.
And how long have you been with the Forest Service?
I've been with the Forest Service a little over 20 years.
All right, well, here's hoping that when you finally realize just how great it is up here, that you can talk your husband into moving the kids and coming on up here to God's country full time instead of just on a...
It's been pretty great.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Thank you.
Well, welcome. We're glad to have you. And Candy, how about you?
Well, my name's Candy Lupe, and I am a member of the White Mountain Apache Tribe. I work for the Bureau of Indian Affairs Fort Apache Agency, and I've been with fire management since 2009. Prior to that, I was a timber sale administrator with the forestry program there at BIA, and I'm a forester. I graduated from Northern Arizona University back in, I'm not going to let you know when that was. A few years ago. So prior to that, I worked for the White Mountain Apache Tribe in the Water Resources Program, and I managed our watershed program. And I have two children. My son is a senior this year at Alchese High School. He'll be graduating. And I have a daughter. She's 8 years old. And I'm a grandma.
Nice.
Yeah, so my grandbaby's 1. So
well, congratulations.
Thank you.
NAU, College of Forestry.
Yes.
That mean Wally Covington, Dave Garrett?
Yes.
Did you work with both of them?
Exactly.
Those
yes,
are two men that we've worked with on forest issues over the years here at Navajo County, and trying to get things cleaned up and try to avoid more of the rodeo Chetaskai and wallow fire scenarios that we've had.
Exactly.
So I know the kind of men you've trained under, and I'm sure they did. I'm sure they're excellent in what they do. And so glad to have a couple of foresters, and who better to talk about the potential threat of forest fire than a couple of foresters.
Great,
so.
Yep. We have a wealth of knowledge sitting here, and we appreciate you coming to speak with us today. Some of the issues we want to talk about are current fire conditions, and maybe looking out a little bit long term. You know, we can't really predict future, but what is it looking like?
Well, you know, we haven't had the kind of moisture that we normally have, so snowpack is not anything as in past years. Yeah, practically non-existent, that's right. And so that has really affected us. I was asking this morning some of our fire folks just what the conditions are, and they told me that basically we're about a month ahead of schedule in terms of dryness and things. So it really has been an impact. And then we had great monsoon last year, and that allowed for a lot of fine fields to grow. And then we haven't had a good winter, so we definitely have some concerns out there.
Yeah, things are pretty dry. Like
Yeah.
you say, about a month ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
We had Jim Zorns, who is the forest supervisor for the Apache Sitgreaves, the person you report to, at our county supervisors board meeting in March, late March, and he reported to us these same things and talked about there being a little bit of a hopeful forecast out there. There were kind of some predictions of maybe a wetter spring than normal, but if not, if we get those rains, great, but if not, then we may be looking at forest closures or shutdowns a little earlier than normal. Is that still what we're thinking?
Well, in terms of fire restrictions, I mean, we hardly ever go to forest closure. I know that
Yeah, you're right.
obviously
You're right.
wallow and shed a sky, but those are really unusual things. But yeah, so we're still hoping that restrictions won't happen until after Memorial Day. I mean, that's pretty typical when they'll start, and so that's still the desire and the expectation at this point in time.
Right. Well, and hopefully we get some of those spring
Yeah.
Spring rains.
spring
Hopefully,
monsoons,
yes.
or whatever you want to call them, spring rains, because you're right. While it was one of the best monsoons in the last
Recent.
20 or 30 years, the bad news is if you follow that up with a real dry winter, then what you have is no snowpack and no runoff to help you with the vegetation that grew real high with all the monsoons, and now it's there dry and brittle and ready to burn. So are you seeing the same things down on the
Yes, we are. Some of the things that we're doing is we've been measuring field moisture, the different types of vegetation out there. We have the smaller little stuff, that little branches that we've measured, up to the big heavy the heavy logs, and our field moistures have been in the low percentages. We're looking at between 3 to 7%, and this was done back in February. We're looking at, this was just before the little precipitation received a few weeks ago, and so with that type of condition, you know, that's something that we usually see like in June, and
Right.
this is, we're looking at around 6,000 to 7,000 in elevation. And so this is something that we really need to get the public aware of, that, you know, conditions are very dry out there right now, and there's a bunch of things we can do, you know, to prevent wildfire from occurring.
So when you say there are things that we can do, what are some of those preventative measures that some of us can, I guess, do when we're recreating?
And well, right now, we can start from around our homes. What we can do is clean the vegetation around our homes, and perhaps if we have woody debris out there, just get your rake and shovel and get dirty out there and just clean up around your homes. One of the things that we recommend is we have a 30-foot buffer is always recommended. You know, just get it clean out.
Yeah,
Your yard.
clean out the gutters, get the needles and the leaves and things off your roof, and I'm in total agreement. I mean, it's a great time to do that, so people should.
So it seems like there's varying levels of preparedness. In a sense, you prepare your home and making sure that you've done as much as you could or can in order to prevent, I guess, feels being highly accessible in a sense. What if a family wants to go out camping or they want to go fishing? What are some of the things that you would recommend?
Well, if they want to have
power bait and worms?
This is true. This is true. I'm really bad at fishing, so I wouldn't know.
Well, for one thing, if they want to have a campfire, which is always fun to do and stuff, and that's great. There's no restrictions about that right now, but they should be wise about it. I mean, if it's a very windy day, then probably not a good idea to do that. And make sure that they have campfires, that they've cleared an area out, and then also don't abandon the thing until it's truly cold. I mean, a lot of times that's where we have problems. People will make a fire and then they see that, oh, the flames have gone out, but the coals haven't gone out. The coals are still hot. And as long as those are still hot, then it's still a danger.
That's what caused the wallow fire.
Well, it is, and actually we had 5 or 6 fires just this weekend on the forest, and they were all from campfires, and I mean, got taken care of really quickly, really easily. We got our people out there and dealt with it, but those are the types of things that can just create problems. So people just need to be wise. I mean, use some common sense.
Yeah, now can we go back just real quickly and talk about with either one? You spoke a little bit about doing the testing of the fuels. Well, I know that the Forest Service does the same thing. Can you talk a little bit about that? How they do that testing and how often they do that kind of testing to update? Is it daily? Is it twice a week? Is it once a week that they update what the fuel conditions are and how dry things are getting out there?
I don't actually know how frequently. I mean, I know they would at least do it every week.
Okay.
And we definitely do it, obviously, before we light a fire ourselves, a prescribed fire of any kind.
Right.
We're checking wind condition, we're checking the fuel moisture, so it's the live vegetation. We're seeing how much moisture is in that live vegetation. We're also checking the dryness of the dead vegetation, too. And all of those things will give us indicators to help us to know what the conditions are.
Right.
Do you know how frequently with?
Well, see, with our agency, like we're starting up right now, and so as conditions start to get drier, more regularly, so we do have someone out there maybe a week or every other week.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So how does your forest prepare for how do they take preventative measures, I guess, because you don't prepare for wildland fire in a sense, but you try to take preventative measures so we don't have major wildland fires. What do your forests do?
Well, I know that, I mean, we prepare in different ways. One thing right now, we actually are a lot of our firefighters are going through that yearly training that they go through. And then as we bring seasonals on, again, the different types of training. And so it's knowing what to do and how to work together. All those things are happening. But then other preparation are just some of the treatments that we've done out there and continue to do. And so that's preparation. So
Well, and that actually is the biggest preparation that I think that the Forest Service and that the tribe can do, the BIA can do, is thinning the forest. We all know that there are many pockets of forest out there that are grossly overgrown, and it's got to be thinned out, and that's why the White Mountain Stewardship Contract and the Forest Restoration Initiative and those things have been so important and imperative that we get that done and get that cleanup done. And as I drive around, we talk a lot about defending our, having a defensible space around our homes and cleaning things up. And as I see, not everything is perfect, but most of the time when you drive around town, you see that WUI, that's half-mile or 1-mile buffer around most of the towns, between the towns and the tribal land, or between the towns and the national forest land. It's been cleaned up pretty well through the community wildfire protection plans and through the White Mountain Stewardship and the thinning that goes on in the tribe. And so that, I think, is moving along well. We haven't had a lot of these forest fires that have started in town. Generally, when homes are threatened, is because a fire starts out in the forest and then comes in, and that's why we talk about cleaning the gutters out and having the minimum 30-foot buffer around our homes, so that if something does burn into the neighborhood, at least once it gets to right there into our neighborhood, it can drop down and we can defend it. So that two different things. One is the preparation on the forest, the other is the preparation in the homes or around the homes.
Yeah,
So.
and we know that preparation works. I mean, just with the Walla fire, we saw where there'd been areas where there'd been treatment done. When the fire came through, it dropped down to the ground. It burned a lot differently. Where there hadn't been any kind of treatments, that's where it burned so intensely. So we know that stuff works. Now, White Mountain Stewardship, it was a great tool. It was a great ability to get a lot of work done, and hopefully Forefry can continue that process.
Well, and we've been working recently long and hard on what we call Bridge the Gap project, trying to bridge between White Mountain Stewardship contract comes to an end in August, the end of August this year, and the second phase of Forefry isn't scheduled to hit here for a few years, and so we're working hard to make sure that the Forest Service can put up the acreage that is needed by these local businesses here in Apache and Navajo counties to continue to treat the forest while we're waiting for that second contract to come through.
It's a high priority for the forest, both things, keeping the industries alive and active. And because again, if they're not here, we don't have that tool.
Right, so that's what I've had people sometimes get frustrated. They go, why are you worried so much about industry? They should take care of themselves. Well, bottom line is, we don't have private forest here. It's all national forest or state land. or tribal land. And if you don't have companies here to process that wood, then none of that logging gets done, none of the forest cleanup gets done.
Not to the scale that we're doing.
Right.
That's
so
right.
we've got to have industry on board, and certainly the industry is reopened down there in White River. And can you speak to that and how excited you guys are to have your forest cleaned up and treated a little more because the mill's back and running?
Yeah, we actually had a field trip a couple of weeks ago with WAMPCO, White Mountain Apache Timber Company, and we're all excited about the reopening of the mill. And one of the things that we have a number of timber sales that have been on hiatus for a while, and we're glad to see them back operating, because that helps, as you mentioned earlier, clean our forests. A lot of the timber that's taken out of those timber sales we're looking at more of your the fork trees or the mistletoe disease trees. So, that really helps when the prescriptions are being written for these timber sales, that, they don't take the best trees out, they take the trees that are weakened. And so it really cleans up the forest and leaves a lot of the seed trees there for more trees to grow. So.
Well, that's one thing we like about it. It's a renewable resource, right?
Exactly.
All right, let's go back then and talk a little bit more about fire preparation, if we can. I mentioned that at the Board of Supervisors meeting, we had Jim Zorns there to talk about the upcoming fire season. We also had a group there that is called the White Mountain Regional Fire Coordination Group. Forest Service, tribal people, all the different fire districts and fire departments throughout the region that have come together to try to work to make sure that we're all on the same page when it comes to fire restrictions. And I think this is very important, because it's been very frustrating over the years when the Forest Service might go into restrictions and say no open fires, no campfires, whatever, and then you go down the street here and one of the towns might be allowing it inside of a campground or a campsite. And so it's important that all the fire districts, fire departments, Forest Service, the counties, everyone kind of come together on this. So can you speak to that a little bit, and how you view that, and maybe some of the other efforts? They talked about a Ready, Set, Go campaign and 72-hour kits, and just other things that they encourage people to do to be ready. So
I know one of the things for Fort Apache Agency, we have been participating in some of the meetings, but we work in a government-to-government relationship with the White Mountain Apache tribe. And so when it comes to fire restrictions, we have to work closely with the tribe. As you all know, that recreation is one of the resources that the tribe uses to generate income. And so what we do is we look at all the possible preventive measures and before we actually go into restrictions. And with that, we also look at what our neighbors are doing, because we all, like you mentioned, we want to be consistent. We want to spread the same message out there. But with the Bureau, we have to work closely with the tribe. And so, like I said, we got to look at all the preventive measures and see if all of that is in place. And then finally, when it comes to restrictions, we'll work with the tribe. Our restrictions are somewhat different than the Forest Service and, the rest of our neighbors. But, we do want to try to keep that consistency going.
You bet. Linda, would you like to speak to that?
I was going to say that coordination group, I think it started back in 2011,
Right.
and we just kind of keep improving it each year. It's been good. Like you said, we don't want to be we go into restrictions, but the towns around us don't, or the county doesn't, or the county goes into it, but then we're not in it. And so it's really helped with that kind of coordination. It's also helped that we're speaking the same language. So you'll find that when we do go into restrictions now, that we're using the same lingo, and hopefully that's helping to not confuse the public as much as I know that especially federal government agencies, we have our own little lingo and it can be confusing.
Yeah, I would agree with that. One of the things we did at that same Board of Supervisors meeting was amend our fire ordinance so that we are speaking the same lingo.
Right,
So we've got the same phraseology, terminology, whatever you want to call it, in our ordinance as it pertains to fire restrictions and the different phases that you can go into.
Right, and with that group we have a pre-fire season meeting and then a post-fire season meeting. There's a core group, and it involves BIA. It involves, like you stated, the fire districts and also the county emergency groups.
Right.
They're part of that too. And then we start having, in fact, the second week of April, we'll start those phone calls. So we have weekly conference calls with those groups, along with the local fire departments, the police departments, even Game and Fish. They're all part of that, just so that we're talking, we're learning from each other, we're making decisions together.
Great. I think it's great that, you know, the agencies are able to work together, especially in keeping our public informed and making sure that we're sharing correct information, but also ensuring safety of our public. One of the things is also that, you know, we're so blessed to live in such a beautiful place, and being able to recreate and enjoy the blessings of, I guess, our land, and those things are important. So I appreciate your stewardship and communicating with our public about why we should take preventative measures. One of the things that we in here, I guess, and keeping our public informed, is the 72-hour kit. Are you familiar with a 72-hour kit, and maybe how families could help start getting those prepared in the event that we might have to evacuate? You know, we certainly don't want to spread alarm, but we want to make sure that people are prepared.
Yeah.
That goes with the Ready, Set, Go campaign. Ready, basically, that's preparing now. That goes hand in hand with Firewise and creating that defensible space. Set is preparing for that 72-hour kit. Get all the necessary important documents in place, you know, develop an evacuation plan for your family, and then go implement the evacuation plan. So it's just a simplified way of, you know, preparing for in case of there is a wildfire that occurs.
Yeah, we saw that here personally in my home when we evacuated because of the Rodeo Chetaskai fire. Wasn't something that had ever been on my mind before, to evacuate because of a fire. So when it was time, we were scrambling to grab the important documents and the family Bible, and then we got out, and my son went, "Dad, we forgot all the guns." And that's all he wanted, to make sure we could hunt elk when we were done. And thankfully, and my wife didn't realize she had forgotten her medicine. And so I had to go back across the roadblock and go and get medicine. And my son was able to rescue his guns while I was getting the medicine. But you're right, it would have been a lot better had we had a plan, had we been ready, had we had those emergency kits, grab them and go, instead of running around helter-skelter trying to figure out what to load in the car and take with us. And I'm going to guess your 72-hour emergency kit would be different from mine. Probably a few more Snicker bars in mine than there would be 72 hours worth of Snicker bars. That might be a whole case.
Yeah. Don't forget the ramen noodle.
All right. Well, it's always amazing to me how fast a 30-minute television program can come and go. So we're about out of time. We just have a few minutes left. Is there anything that either of you would like to talk about or make sure that the public knows as we approach a potential fire season? Again, we're not wanting to alarm the public or say that evacuations are imminent or anything like that, but just to be ready. Is there anything that either of you would like to share?
One of the things that we got to remind everybody, that fire has no boundary, and with that, you know, working with our neighbors, such as the Forest Service, is very important. And also just, you know, having an open communication with the Forest Service and the rest of our neighbors. And the first part of April is Wildfire Prevention Week. And so that's where we, you know, spread the message that wildfire prevention is everyone's responsibility.
Very good. Thank you. And Linda?
Oh, just that we want people to enjoy the forest and get out there and recreate and have fun, but just use a lot of common sense. I mean, I think that's probably the most important thing. Use common sense, and feel free to go into any of our district offices and ask questions, give them a call. They're there to help and provide information. So. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Anything else for you today?
I don't think so. You ready to go camping?
Yeah, I'm always ready to go camping, especially if it involves, you know, an elk tag or something, which it is that time of year. It's, you know, probably the next day or two I find out if the governor liked me or not. if I get my elk tag.
Oh,
right?
there you go. There you go. You and I will have to go.
Yeah.
Go fishing, and I'll leave you watching the fire.
Yeah, yes, you will. Yeah, I see how it works. All right. Well, thank you both for coming
Thank you.
and joining us. For information purposes, people can get more information by going to NavajoCountyAZ.gov. Can also go to www.311info.net and also www.navajocounty.onthealert.com. So there are a few websites. We can have Mel put those on the screen for our viewers to know. They can also go there for information on fire restrictions, so or anything pertinent to those subjects anyway. So anything you need to tell the viewers that's upcoming for you in April? Anything you got going on that they need to know about?
No, not that comes right off the top of my head. I know I have several speaking engagements, so look for me out there.
I will.
Yeah.
And I'll probably be speaking
Front
somewhere
row.
else at the
I
same
hope
time.
David's in the
I'm going to
front
be there
row.
and heckle you. That's what I'm
That's
going to
right.
do. Well, exciting things for our family in the month of April. Our son Houston is to be married this month, and I'd like to publicly congratulate him. And
Yes, congratulations.
I let you know that he and his fiancée are registered at Target, and her father and I are registered at Bass Pro Shops.
Very good.
If you want to get us something. So, the fishing pole for this trip we're talking about. So.
I'm taking a collection.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'll wait for it. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming
Thank you.
and
Thank
being
you.
a part of our
Thank
program
you.
today and informing the public as to what they can do to help themselves be better prepared for a fire season that we all hope is a non-issue.
That's right.
But it's always
Fingers
wise.
crossed.
Yeah, it's always wise to be prepared. So, all right.
Sounds great. I know my family enjoys going out there and recreating, so hope you get a chance to go out and fish or camp or kayak or canoe or whatever it is you like to do.
All right. Well, thank you. And our thanks to Mel West and his crew here at City 4 Television, including the new camera guy, big, tall, lanky guy named Hunter, who's on one of the cameras today. Not near as good looking as the other camera people, but anyway, what can you say? Anyway, our thanks to them and the folks here at Sholo. They're another great partner of ours, as is the BIA and the Forest Service. And life is about partnerships, and we've got good partners here at Navajo County. So our thanks to the City of Sholo and Mel here at City 4 TV. And thanks to you for always tuning in and seeing what we have to say here on Navajo County Connection. Until next time, we'll see you then.
We'll see you.